Hello everyone. Today's topic is a small thing, consumption. When usually we speak or thought about consumption based on different people's perception, it could be very different. It could be food, or it could be thought, or it could be something that we buy. So, consumption means whatever we consume in our life. We consume a lot of things. Whenever we breathe, we consume a lot of oxygen. Whenever we sleep, we actually consume more oxygen during the night because our body relaxes. We go into a phase of very peacefulness. So our mind and our brain goes to that sleep, but our consciousness stay alert. So it goes around and cleans up a lot of things. So it consumes a lot of energy as well. But my point for this video is whatever we consume. When I'm talking about these kind of things, I usually talk about things that actually beneficial for us from a point of view of spirituality, but very useful in day-to-day life, because spirituality is nothing but expansion of our consciousness. Simple fact. Our connection to the divine world and expanding that connection to strengthen that, to receive that positive downloads, the truth, the clarity, the guidance, the assistance from them, and making ourselves a center of our own universe without having any ego in us, and leading a life in a less burdensome way, and creating a happier, satisfying life where we do not have to escape from. That is the point of being spiritual. Many people have a misunderstanding that being spiritual means you have to let go of a lot of things, you have to, you know, cannot think about comfort, because a lot of people punish themselves in the name of spirituality because they assumed or they were taught that punishing or that self negligency is something that brings them closer to the divine. It is not. Joy is something that brings closer to the divine. Having anything, there is a saying, even if you consume elixir too much, it may become poison. So whatever we consume, it would be better for us if it is in a balanced form, unless it's something that connects us to the divine world. Positivity is something that we need to consume a lot on a daily basis. Whenever we want to consume something positive, it means we have to be intentionally do and don't do certain things in our life. This is exactly my point, and my video is about consumption today, because whenever we are in during the daytime, whenever we are not sleeping, our alertness is very different compared to person. Whatever we do during those time consciously, and there are a lot of things that people can do without even realizing it. They say things, they get involved in things, they have a conversation, they have the thought process, the word that comes out of their mouth. This is all a way of consumption in a different way. Whatever we food that we eat, that is not just consumption. The food that we eat, the thing that we think, the word that we speak, the connections that we have in the human realm, the conversation that we have, whatever the attention that we give and allow that things to caught our attention, and whatever the thing that we get involved, maybe two people are talking and we are getting involved in that and just nodding yes yes, even if you are not interested in it, or even if we are even if this person, whoever that person is, I'm not gonna talk about me. If a person who has literally no idea about what others is speaking, they're nodding, or the other person is speaking really negative about someone else, and this person is not agreeing with that within themselves, but they are still saying yes yes, just because they cannot openly say no. They cannot say no, you guys are talking shit, so I don't want to get involved myself in there, so I'm gonna leave. So this person cannot say that to their faces. A lot of people, this is called one of the ways of people pleasing, because they're afraid of confrontation, they're afraid of showing their authentic self, their actual opinion, their thought process, because no, a lot of people are taught to be that adjusting, very soft, very compromised way of being. Even themselves, they know that they do not like gossiping about others, or they do not want to think about why this person has three children when they are like this way, or they don't have this way, why the next kid is not coming yet, it's been 5 years after marriage. See, these kind of things, when people talk about it, is none of our business. This is also a way of consumption. Even when we do not speak first handly, when we are having a attention towards those kind of things, this is also a way of consumption. Means we are agreeing to that energetically. That's how entanglement happens. So food, the thought, and all the stuff that I mentioned, along with all of those things, along with the media, means whatever we agree to consume, physically, mentally, psychologically, energetically, spiritually, even biologically, all the things in all areas of life. This is exactly why having a mindfulness is very important. This is why meditation helps a lot, because our attention, for example, if you are standing in the middle of the road, especially where a lot of honkings are allowed, there are a lot of countries where this kind of the honkings horn, they are considered very differently, a threatening way. Unless they have to threaten somebody, they wouldn't probably use it, or it's a way of different communication. But in certain countries, it is just a way of proper way of saying yes or no, turn left, move, whatever it is. This is not a threatening thing. But if you're standing in that, it's easy to get distracted, because there are 1,000 things are going, isn't it? So when we are standing in that kind of a place, earth is placed like that, there is a lot of distractions around. But it is our responsibility, our job, to bring that external attention back to internal attention. And meditation is something that helps a lot. And to do that meditation, our consumption takes a very important space. Means whatever we consume, it influences our way of thinking, way of even perception of life, way of anticipating, way of doing things. There is a lot of changes that we can clearly see when somebody withholds that eating habits. If somebody has a habit of eating a lot of sweets, or a lot of spicy food, or a lot of processed food, and if somebody has a habit of lot of engaging themselves in a lot of social media, or gossiping around, and doing things that is in any way other than just entertaining, it doesn't bring them anything good. There are a lot of coping mechanism people do. When people come from office, they're doing a little bit of entertainment in the TV, this and that. This is a coping mechanism. In a smaller way, that's fine. But when it's done excessively, that becomes kind of addiction, because there are a lot of people who go through trauma. They do not know how to deal with the aftermath of their own emotional imbalance. Whether they had a fight, or they were suppressing their emotions, they were depressed, they were sad, anger, or feeling of loss, or they don't know what they're feeling. It's just an escapism, a coping mechanism. This is exactly why this kind of a consumption is bad. This is my point. So when somebody having a point that this is good, that is not good, it's very important as a human for us to stand and make a readjustment within our own point of life. Means taking the note of whatever we are doing. This is exactly, there are a lot of people pause, go for a vacation, because they are burned out, because they are consuming a lot of things that is completely different. It is not different, it is not the same. But whenever somebody consumes a lot of things, their attention goes very differently. We need to have our attention inwards. That is why letting go of anything that is not good for us is very good. So if anybody is indulging in having this kind of a conversation, is this kind of a thoughts, or having this kind of a addictions or bad habits, letting those kind of a things go and consume what is actually positive for us is really good. So my point is, people do not realize how they are dragged into this. I'll tell you a simple story. This story that I read a long time ago. There was a temple, and there was some kind of a being who used to trouble all the priests and all the devotees. It's an entity. So many people came to capture it, but it was powerful and it was not caught that easily. So one day, a person who came with his grandchild, it's been a long time, I am just modifying this story. A grandfather came with a child, and it was totally empty. It's evening time, so the temple was completely empty. So after these stories they's been telling, suddenly the grandfather starts to say something stories. So basically that is how it was. So the grandfather starts to say things, story to its his grandchild. Sorry that I got distracted because of the noise. So whenever the story was going on, suddenly grandfather started to say something. It missed a point, and suddenly grandfather heard somebody saying, "No, you missed something from your story. That is not how it is. This I heard this story, and you're teaching your grandchild something wrong." And let's continue. I stopped again because of the noise. Basically, what was happening, I'll wrap it up. A temple, there is some entity was there, so nobody was able to caught. So it was very smart. So a grandfather took his grandchild and starts to tell a story to the child. And suddenly, after some times, he he was stopped by a voice which said, "Look, Grandpa, that you're actually spewing some nonsense. That whatever the story you are telling, it's faulty. It's not how so." And suddenly, Grandpa was surprised that, "What? Who is it? Show yourself." And suddenly, that entity showed himself, and suddenly says, "Grandpa, look, this is not how the story is. This is how it is." And suddenly, Grandpa removed some artifact and caught the entity, and this is how the entity got caught. It's because it couldn't keep its mouth shut. My point is, this is how distractions can bring lot of things that is unwanted. If it is quiet, it would not have happened to the entity. No, it's a long time ago that I read this story. This is how distractions can change our path, take us in a different path. And people sometimes doesn't even realize. For example, there are a lot of people who get into gambling or drinking. It's because their friends made them. This is the distraction that they did not wanted. This is the consumption they did not wanted. This is exactly. Sometimes it may come in a different way. Sometimes people do that to themselves. For example, too much indulging in food as a food addiction, as a coping mechanism for anything depressive, or if someone's life is too stressful, too depressive, helplessness, that feeling of loneliness, people drink, eat a lot. This is why people who have a lot of weight issues, it means their emotion needs to be in balance. So this is all a way to control ourselves, the consumptions. So my point in the end, I'll finish this in simple way. If you're somebody who has this kind of a problem in a consumption, means any kind of a habit, a way of indulging in yourself, like yourself with something else, maybe a conversation, a thought process, maybe you're talking to yourself, you're talking to somebody else, you're agreeing to somebody else, or whether it's a food, or whatever you're doing within your own self, a job, a career, too much consumption, that is actually not so good. So I hope it's understandable. I hope it helps.